Pranjiti, you can begin now.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We welcome Mr. Danish Jariwala to this session. I welcome you, sir, on the behalf of the association for this 20th
Thank you very much.
lecture series. Sir has completed his BA and MA from the Veer Narmad University, Surat. He has qualified his NET in 2019. Sir is right now pursuing his PhD in the Department of English and CLS. He's working since last 4 years at the as a ad hoc assistant professor at SEET in the supplement sub editor at the local newspaper for last 7 years. And sir has also has translated. He's being assistant translated in the national level translation project. The the translated book, which was launched by our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, and sir is his area of interest were literature, literary criticism, mythology, creative writing, translation, proofreading, and cinema. I welcome you, sir, on the behalf of all the participants, and I over to you this session. So,
Thank you very much, Purna ma'am. Uh, it's an honor, first of all, to be a lecturer for this particular series, because when you are pursuing PhD as a student from a university, and at the same time you got this opportunity to be a lecturer also. So there can be no greater honor than this. That is what I feel. So that I'll try to fulfill it at my best. So, Purnama has already joined, so there's no need for further introduction. If at all you need to know me, then you know me by the lecture which I am going to deliver.
okay,
Will be remains worthy.
okay, sir.
That
Yes, sir.
you know me, and if it is not that great, then you can. Okay, there was some connection error. Can you hear me now
Yes, sir.
properly?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please.
So if it will be good enough, then you will be remembering me definitely. Otherwise, there is no need to do so. Okay.
Okay,
So
sir.
as you can see on your screen, that we are going to talk about psychoanalytical criticism. Okay, uh, which is a combination of two disciplines in general, that is psychology and literature. Okay, literary criticism. Okay, so before I start anything from my side, I would like to know that how much you people are familiar with this concept, because many of you might have already studied, many of you might have been delivering lecture on this particular topic also. It is possible. So I would like to know that what is your concept of psychoanalysis and psychoanalytical criticism, and then I'll try to share what I have understood. So if anyone would like to, first of all, let us clarify this thing. That is there any difference between psychology and psychoanalysis, or they are one and the same? Anyone? Okay, I think
I'm not sure, but I can guess. May I?
yes, sure.
I guess psychology is the knowledge of the psyche of a person, and
Yes.
psychoanalysis is the analysis of the psyche, as in why the things, why the person think the way he thinks, or why certain things are being analyzed in the same way by everyone. So
Okay.
I think this is the difference.
Okay. So in Ankita's view, there is a slight difference. Okay, whereas Ine believes that they are quite similar. Okay, anyone else? Okay, it was initiated by Sigmund Freud, definitely the forefather of psychology in a way. Anyone else? Okay. Uh, Now this topic which we are going to discuss about is very long in itself. So we will not discuss much difference, but in simple we can keep this thing in mind, that as far as psychology is concerned, psychology is a discipline. Okay, it is a branch of study, a branch of knowledge. Okay, that is psychology, which deals with the understanding of human psyche, and how to treat the problems, how to treat the psychological problem. Okay, so that can be the simple explanation of psychology. Whereas psychoanalysis is only one technique of psychology. Okay, psychology is a larger discipline, wherein psychoanalysis is a kind of technique which helps the psychiatrist, or which helps the person to treat himself from the psychological traumas which he or she might be facing. Okay, is it clear what is the difference between psychology and psychoanalysis? Because only then we can move further.
Yes, very much, sir.
Okay, what about others? Generally, I used to teach in the college to the students of engineering, and I generally expect that the students are responsive, because my lecture is generally molded on the basis of the responses I get. Okay, so if there are no answers, I will believe that I am not interesting enough, so I can wind it up soon. But if there will be responses, then I can believe that there are some understandings on the part of the receivers. Okay, is it clear to all of you? Okay, now let us go to the PPT. You are just seeing the first slide. Now let us go to the third slide first. Okay, rather than dealing with the first two slides, we will talk about this third slide first. Okay, and that talks about what is psychoanalysis. Okay, the simple explanation of psychoanalysis which I could found. Okay, that I am going to share with you, that what is psychoanalysis. So in simple terms, psychoanalysis is a type of therapy. Okay, it is a kind of psychological therapy which aims to release our pent up or repressed emotions and memories, which help us to lead to catharsis or healing. Okay, now we know that we if we are facing some psychological traumas, if we are having some mental problems, those mental problems will always have their root in our feelings, in our emotions, in our experiences. Okay, in our past in our memories. We might have some kind of a conflict with someone, we might have faced some trouble, we might have gone through some difficult phase of our life. Okay, so the current problem which we are facing right now is having a root in our past. Okay, so what psychoanalysis do, it tries to bring out those feelings, those expressions which we felt at a particular point of time. Okay, and why is it tries to do so? જે ભૂતકાળમાં આપણે અનુભવેલું હોય તે પાછું લાવવાનો પ્રયત્ન કેમ કરે બહાર? Because if we'll release those emotions, if we will try to relive those emotions, then that will lead us to catharsis. Now, as a student of literature, we all are aware with the term catharsis and purgation. Okay, what is it in simple terms? Catharsis or purgation?
Catharsis is the release of your emotions without harm to yourself or anybody.
Okay, we are trying to get rid of our guilt, okay, of our emotions, okay, so that we can feel better. This is the simplest explanation. There can be a proper definition of catharsis also, okay. So this is the simple explanation, that we are trying to get rid of the emotions or the guilt which we are having. So the psychoanalysis helps us to remember our repressed suppressed memories, and that will ultimately lead us to catharsis. Once we are thinking about those memories, once we are reliving those emotions, we will eventually get free of them, and then we can feel relaxed and better. Okay, so this is the whole pattern of psychoanalysis, okay, which Freud developed in detail, okay, in his essays, in his lectures, and in his books, okay. So this is the thing, as it is written over here. In other words, the goal of psychoanalysis is to bring what exists at the unconscious or some subconscious level up to consciousness. Okay, now we are going to talk about these terms also. You might be aware with these terms priorly, but we will just have a glimpse of this basic terms of psychoanalysis. Okay, and the third point which is mentioned over here is this goal is accomplished through talking to another person about the big questions in life, the things that matter, and diving deep into the complexity that lie beneath the simple seeming surface. Okay, now how will you relive these emotions? Okay, for that thing you need to talk with someone. Okay, why people get so much so depressed, why nowadays, especially in 21st century, the adolescents and teenagers are having tremendous psychological trauma, because they are not having that much trustworthy person with whom they can share their problems, okay, and that leads to them leads them to do some extreme things, okay, which might lead them to up to suicide also, okay. But to prevent to go to those extremes, જ્યાં સુધી એકદમ એક્સ્ટ્રીમ પગલા નહીં લઈ લઈએ, એનાથી બચવા માટે what we should do, we should try to talk to some person, okay, and that person will help us to relive those things and get relieved, okay. Relive, RELIVE, and then relived, okay. તો બંને વર્ડ I hope you are getting both the terms, okay. તો આ એક સિમ્પલ એનો belief છે, okay. If you are having a psychiatrist, then that psychiatrist will help you to do so. Otherwise, any person whom you trust, that person, if he knows something about your life, about your psyche, that even that ordinary person also can help you to get relieved of those traumatic emotions, okay. So this is simple explanation of psychoanalysis, okay. Now uh, how this psychoanalysis got started, okay, how it came into existence. So as we are preparing these things for net, and we know that net is not going to check your understanding ability, how much well you have understood some concept. What generally net and set does is how much you can cram some facts and figures, okay. So I have tried to come up with some names, okay, and some dates which might help you, uh, which might can be turned into a question, okay, in an objective question. તો એવા થોડાક પ્રશ્નો પણ આપણે જોશું. પૂરેપૂરું તો કદાચ એવું નહીં થઈ શકે જેમાંથી બધા જ ક્વેશ્ચન નીકળી શકતા હોય, પણ એ પણ સાથે જોતા જશું, જેથી કરીને સમજવાનું અને નેટ માટે થોડું તૈયાર કરવાનું, બંને પેરેલલ ચાલતું રહે. ઓકે, તો ફર્સ્ટ, as far as Freud is concerned, he was born in Austria. So he basically he is a German. Most of his books were written in German. That we should keep in mind. He got trained to become a neurologist. Okay, not a psychologist first. He got trained to become a neurologist, and then he started to treat his patients. Okay, and to cure the psychological disorders they were facing. Okay, so this is his life as a psychologist. Okay, and psychoanalyst. Okay, now how he got inspired, how he developed this theory of psychoanalysis. that we should keep in mind, because it might be asked as a question, perhaps we don't know. uh, Freud was having a colleague named Dr. Joseph Breuer. Okay, Brewer. I don't know the exact pronunciation. Now this that Dr. Joseph Breuer was having a patient. That patient is also well known. Her name was Anna O. Okay, these two names are important in the history of psychoanalysis and in the history of psychology in general. Okay, uh, we should know this name as a uh, literature person also, and for net also. Okay, that Joseph Brewer was having this patient Anna O. Now, what was the problem of this Anna O? Anna O ની તકલીફ શું હતી? That she was showing some physical symptoms. એના થોડા physical symptoms દેખાડતી હતી. એને એવા physical symptoms, physical illness દેખાતી હતી. Now the problem was those physical symptoms were not having any physical cause, any apparent physical cause. Okay, she might be having headaches, but there was no apparent cause which might cause headache. Okay, simply એને કહીએ તો. Okay, so that was her problem. Are you getting me? What was her actual problem? That there were no physical causes, no apparent causes, but still she was facing some physical problems. Okay, so and it was mysterious for the doctors also, that how to treat her. You can treat a disease which is having no physical base. If there is no physical base, if there is no physical evidence of for the disease, then it will get difficult for a pathologist or for a MBBS doctor to treat that disorder or treat that disease. Okay, so what this Joseph Breuer did with that Anna O, he helped her to recover her traumatic memories. Okay, we talked about psychoanalysis. What he actually did, he tried to recover her memories, the memories which were actually uh, was suppressed. She has suppressed those memories since long, but still those memories were unconsciously haunting her or tormenting her. Okay, unconscious mind માં રહી ગયેલું, એને પણ પોતાને પણ નહીં ખબર હતું. તેમ છતાં એ મેમરી એને નુકસાન પહોંચાડતી હતી, અને those memories, those traumatic experiences which were there in her unconscious mind were the actual reasons for her physical symptoms, her physical illness. Okay, so this was the practice which was first or for the first time followed by Joseph Breuer. Now, as Freud was his colleague, okay, and he got inspired that the thing this Joseph is doing is interesting, and then there were other bases also, some other background also, for which we do not have that much time to discuss about. This was one of the chief things which inspired Sigmund Freud to develop a theory which then on got popular as psychoanalysis, and which has influenced centuries. Okay, since last 120 years, people are trying to study his psychoanalysis, and many are trying to oppose it also. Okay, because now many things have changed in psychology. People have tried uh, to find faults in his theory. There are faults in his theory, but we'll not go into those details right now. I hope this much is clear. Okay, what is psychoanalysis? How Freud got inspired to develop his theory of psychoanalysis. Clear with these two things? Shall we move further?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What about others? Okay, chasing of emotions. Okay, that was a good term. Okay. અરે પ્રેક્ટિસ માટે બીજા નામ પણ એવું હોય તો બોલતો રહીશ, જે હું મારા ક્લાસીસમાં કરતો હોઉં છું. in order to check whether they have understood it or not. Avni ji, Raksha ji, Sangeeta ji, am I clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, good. Okay. As you are fine with this PPT, is the need to show my face because it will in some corner of it. Okay, this is important PPT which we are going to deal with. So will it be fine if if I'll just show you the PPT?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Okay, okay. Now this was the third and the fourth slide. Okay. Now we will go to the first slide. Okay, because we are not going to just talk about this. We are going to talk about psychoanalytical criticism. Okay, because we are trying to bring the psychology and psychoanalysis in literature and literary criticism. Okay, so we should look at that thing also. So the first thing which we should keep in mind is emergence of psychological criticism. Psychological criticism ક્યારથી શરૂ થયું? Okay, it is not that old. It is not that much old in comparison to the other criticism. Okay, we know how when we talk about criticism, the first few names we remember are of Horace or Plato, Aristotle, Longinus, and then on up until Dryden. Okay, so we remember these many names. Now, what was the basic characteristics of their criticism? They chiefly talked about the form of the literature. Okay, the qualities the literature or the text are supposed to have. Okay, the chief focus was there. Then Dryden also talked about this comparative criticism, but still the main focus was on form, the qualities,
Sir,
the
sorry for the
classicness of the literature. Yes.
sir, sorry for the disturbance. Your voice
Yes.
is glitches. Your voice is breaking a
Oh,
little
sorry,
bit.
sorry, sorry, sorry.
It's
Let
okay,
me
sir.
rearrange it. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Uh, am I audible properly now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So till the late 18th century, the main focus of criticism was the form, okay, and the characterization or the themes. Okay, these were the few areas which critics used to talk about more. But with the beginning of 19th century and with the herald of romanticism in literature, the critics started to focus upon the psychology also. Okay, and that psychology was not only of the character which was there in the piece of work, but they also tried to focus on the psychology of the author as well. ઓકે, પહેલે જે હતું તે ટ્રેજેડીના લક્ષણ ને એ બધાની વાત કરતા કે ટ્રેજેડી કેટલા અંશે ટ્રેજેડી છે. ઓકે, એમાં બધા જે એના રૂલ્સ છે, યુનિટીસ છે, તે ફોલો થાય છે કે નહીં, એ બધું જોતા હતા. કેરેક્ટરાઇઝેશન છે તે પ્રોપર છે કે નહીં, એ બધા પર ફોકસ પહેલે થતું હતું. they used to talk about themes also. તો they were the chief areas of interest up until 18th century. But then gradually the romantic critics start to emphasize on the psychology of the character and the author. Why? Because whatsoever literature is being written or was written was ultimately the product of the mind of the author. Okay, so if we want to understand, if we are trying to understand the work of uh, piece, a work of literature in its complete sense, okay, then we should try to understand the ongoings of the author's mind. author के दिमाग में क्या क्या चल रहा है, वो अगर थोड़ा पता चले, then it might help us, okay, to understand the work in a better way. Okay, now people started to people have opposed this thing also later on, and in the middle and the later stages of 20th century that we know, the post structuralist and the constructionist are most of the time against to the theory of Freud. Okay, this psychological readings of literature, they are in many ways against these theories. Okay, and we you might be learning those theories also in the second and third round of your sessions. Okay, so we should keep in mind that this psychological reading of the author and the text was developed in the early part of the 19th century, which was uh, developed more in the early part of the 20th century, and then it was opposed, and it still has been opposed by many people. Okay, but in my personal opinion, it really helps to understand the work of art. Okay, now when it comes to names, we should Thomas Carlyle said in 1827 that the best of our critics at present is mainly of a psychological sort, to be answered by discovering the peculiar nature of poet from his poetry. What they were trying to do, they were trying to understand the nature and the psyche of the poet. With the help of the poetry, he or she might have had written. Okay. Now there was another person, John Cable. He wrote this thing on the healing power of poetry, which was published in 1844. Keep this thing, these numbers, these dates, and the names of the books in mind. What John Cable said, that poetry is the indirect expression of some overpowering emotion. Now we already know what Wordsworth said. For Wordsworth, it was a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. Okay, but John Cable extended that thing a bit. That it is not just a spontaneous overflow. It is actually an that spontaneous overflow can be direct. Okay, but in John Cable's opinion, this overflow of emotions was actually an indirect expression. An indirect expression of what? Uh, that ruling taste or feeling, the direct indulgence whereof is somehow repressed. Okay, the poet is trying to express indirectly the emotions which are generally suppressed in his or her unconscious mind. ओके, तो जो अनकॉन्शियस माइंड में छुपा हुआ है उसको डायरेक्टली वो सबके सामने एक्सप्रेस नहीं कर सकते, because it might make him vulnerable, it might embarrass him in front of the society. So what he or she tries to do, he or she tries to express those emotions in an indirect way in his or her poetry, in his or her work of art. Okay, so how this thing help? John Cable believes that poets and this psychological critics believe that poets and the artists are at the advantage. नॉर्मल जो लोग हैं उनसे ये आर्टिस्ट लोगों को थोड़ा फायदा रहता है. किस तरह का फायदा रहता है? कैन यू इमेजिन? They are an advantage. What kind of advantage?
Yes, sir, they might express their views, and that's in that manner they can get purgation of the emotions or the feelings, and they can be relaxed. So they do not suffer from psychological problems much than the other people because there is outlet through their creative output.
Okay, exactly. Thank you, Nitin bhai. Okay, one of our wonderful research scholars. Okay, as he has said, others, the other ordinary people are not having that much chances to express themselves. Their desires are always hidden. Okay, they are not getting chance to get relieved. Okay, whereas when it comes to poet or artist, they are indirectly expressing their views, their emotions, their feelings, and thereby they are getting emotionally free. They are leading themselves towards catharsis with the help of their work of art. Okay, so that is the advantage which poets and artists are having. That's why this poetry or the art is serving as a safety wall, preserving man from madness. Poets, we know poets and the philosophers, the authors, they are thinkers, they think too much, and उनकी और लोगों से तकलीफें ज़्यादा होती हैं, क्योंकि जितना सोचो उतनी तकलीफें ज़्यादा बढ़ती है. सोसाइटी के बारे में आप जितना सोचोगे उतनी तकलीफें बढ़ेगी. ओके, तो अगर वो एक्सप्रेस ना करे तो दे गेट मैड, but they have this benefit that they can express themselves indirectly with the help of their art, okay, which is working as a safety wall and which is preventing them from turning into a mad person, okay. तो दिस इज द इमर्जेंस ऑफ साइकोलॉजिकल क्रिटिसिज्म, तो ये उसकी शुरुआत थी। और साइकोलॉजिकल क्रिटिसिज्म के बाद आया साइको एनालिटिकल क्रिटिसिज्म, एंड विच वाज चीफली बिकॉज ऑफ सिगमंड फ्रॉइड, okay, because Sigmund Freud started to talk about psychoanalytical criticism more in the early part of the 20th century, and since the 1920s, most of the part of psychological criticism has become psychoanalytical criticism. Okay, from the early 19th century to early 20th century, there was psychological criticism, but after the development of psychoanalytical theory by Freud, psychological criticism got converted more into psychoanalytical criticism. Okay, uh, the, he talked about this artist imagination in 23rd lecture of his introduction to psychoanalysis. He delivered a series of lectures, okay, introduction to psychoanalysis, and in 23rd lecture he talked about this artist imagination, how his imagination helps him to express his views indirectly, okay. And this uh, psychoanalysis, which was developed by Freud, is generally known as classical psychoanalysis, because there were many modifications made after Freud by his ardent follower and then his in a way rival Jung and Lacan, and the up until now by the modern psychoanalyst. Okay, so he propounded classical psychoanalysis, which got modified later on, yeah, decades by decades. Okay, so this much is enough for the basics of psychoanalysis and psychoanalytical criticism. Now I think we should move to the basic concept, okay, which you might have heard previously, but might need to clarify a bit. Okay, so let us start from his well-known concept, which is known as the structure of the mind or the models of mind. Okay, which we know as conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. Okay, so who would like to explain this thing simply by looking at or without looking at the slide? Anyone? Uh, अगर किसी there is no. જો કોઈ કે પહેલેથી સાંભળ્યું હોય, સાંભળ્યું જ હશે ઘણાએ, but if someone can put it in simple words, then I'll happy to listen you people also. आयुषी जी, आयुषी शर्मा. અત્યાર સુધી આપણું જેટલું ચાલ્યું તે સમજાવ્યું ને ભાઈ બધાને? If there is any confusion, because this topic in itself is very confusing if not understood properly, so if anyone has any confusion or any doubt, they can simply ask. Okay, so anyone who would like to share their views about this conscious mind, subconscious mind, and unconscious mind? Yes, Nitin sir.
Yes, so when we talk about the conscious, at the time we feel that right now, as we are talking or as we are learning, we are doing this activity consciously. Means we know that what we are doing. So, in simple words, we can say that when we are aware of the activities which we are doing, that is called conscious. And unconscious means we do not know. Unconscious can also be called that it's a situation like that. Like while we are sleeping, we are totally unconscious what happens with us. We do not know anything. But when in the morning when we get up, at that time we again become conscious. But the third position, which is called subconscious, is in between conscious and unconscious. And this subconscious plays a much role. Generally, when we are having some wish, we want to achieve something, but because of the circumstances, we are unable to get them. At that time it happens that we are not able to get them and we wish that, so that thing goes into our subconscious mind and it takes the form of a dream, and which ultimately which we cannot fulfill in the real world. We try to fulfill it in a form of dream, and it is nothing but the different wishes which are unfulfilled get collected, and thus we get the purgation of it. So that is the subconscious, means inside something is going on.
Okay, it's true, Nitin sir. As he has said that conscious, the things which we are aware of, okay, we are the current thoughts which we are having, okay, and the things which we are completely in dominance, okay, which are in our possession, okay. The unconscious which we are not aware of at all, okay, they might be there in the back of our mind. We don't know those memories uh, and what happened with us at a particular point of time in past, okay, but still they are there, okay. So that is unconscious, okay. There are some desires, basic human desires, okay, which we haven't brought out, okay, हम उसे कभी बाहर नहीं लाए हैं, okay. So it is there in the unconscious. And the third, that is subconscious. It is kind of a gate between conscious and the unconscious, okay. Things can uh, come from the unconscious to the conscious with the help of this subconscious mind. उसे हाफ अवेयरनेस जैसी स्थिति हम कह सकते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ अगर આપણે ખબર કે કોઈક આપણને પ્રસાદ આપે, તો પ્રસાદ આપ્યા પછી કોઈ પણ આપણે જો તો પ્રસાદ લીધા પછી આપણા માથા પર અચાનક આપણાથી હાથ ફેરવાય જ જાય, okay. We don't know, we were not intended to do that thing, but we are trained in a way that it is now the part of our subconscious mind, that whenever someone is offering us a prasad, we'll do that thing, that do that particular thing, okay. So those the things which are done in the half awareness, in a kind of half awareness state, that it is subconscious. Now all these levels of mind are having three things, okay. The consciousness is uh, supported by superego, the subconscious is supported by ego, and the unconscious is supported by id, okay. Id, ego and superego નો જે concept છે, okay. We know what is id. So id operates at the unconscious level, and there are innate desires, basic human desires. Now Freud has named them as eros and thanatos, but in our culture, in our concept, we can simply say them that there are four innate desires which we have, and they are known as ahar, nidra, bhaya, maithun. These are the basic instinct which not only human beings but all the beings have, okay. જેટલા પણ જીવ છે, all the living beings, they are uh, they are condemned to have this four basic instinctual desire. Now these things are at the back of our mind, okay, to their fullest power, okay. આપણા આહારની જે કંઈક ખાવાની ઈચ્છા હોય, ભય છે આપણો, આપણે ઊંઘ છે, ઓકે, અને મૈથુન, એ એના ટ્રુ ફોર્મમાં ઈડ એની જે છે, જે ઇનેટ ડિઝાયર્સ છે, એના ટ્રુ ફોર્મમાં અનકોન્શિયસ માઇન્ડમાં હોય, ઓકે. નાઉ ધ સુપર ઈગો, જે સુપર ઈગો છે તે આ જે આપણી એકદમ બેઝિક ઇન્સ્ટિંક્ટ છે, ઓકે, તેના કરતા એકદમ અપોઝિટ છે. એ બેઝિક ઇન્સ્ટિંક્ટ એકદમ વાઇલ્ડેસ્ટ હોઈ શકે, ઓકે, જ્યારે સુપર ઈગો છે તે એકદમ રિસ્ટ્રેન્ડ છે, એ એની ઉપર એકદમ ચેન લગાવવાનો પ્રયત્ન કરે, because super ego is what, that is our morality and higher principles reside, the principles which have been taught by us, by the society, taught to us by the society. તો સોસાયટીના જે સ્ટાન્ડર્ડ્સ આપણા ઉપર ઇમ્પોઝ કરવામાં આવ્યા છે, and when we are trying to follow those societal principles, we are following the super ego. Okay, our super ego comes into picture. Okay, now ego is somewhere in between. Okay, what is the role of the ego? Ego will try to balance both the things. Okay, uh, for example, let us take the example of Krishna and Ram. Okay, Krishna had 16,108 queens. Okay, and Ram was having only one ultimate queen. Okay, Sita. Now if we will observe our psychology, and psychologists have accepted this thing, that we by nature, by born, are polygamous. Okay, we don't આપણો જે નેચરલ ઇન્સ્ટિંક્ટ છે તો વી આર નોટ એક પત્નીત્વવાદી કે એક પતિત્વવાદી આપણને નથી by nature. Our psychology is not like that. Okay, and that many psychologists have talked about this thing in detail. Okay, તો આપણે એક પતિત્વવાદી કે એક પત્નીત્વવાદી નથી. Okay, તો we might like to be Krishna. Many of us might like to be as joyful and as resourceful as Krishna. But the problem is we are taught the ideals of Rama. We are said that we are supposed to have one wife, and not only that, we are not supposed to think about any other person than our spouse, than our one and only spouse. Okay, so that is, the super ego tells us to be Ram, but our id might tell us to become Krishna. Okay, now what ego will do, our ego will help us to find a balance in between these two. Okay, that our instincts are instinct of our sexual desires are too powerful. Okay, but the super ego is restraining it a lot. Now what will we do? We have developed a kind of in between solution, that once we are getting married, we will be loyal to the person we are married, but before that some kind of liberty might be allowed. Now this some kind of is also dependent on the person's individual desires and individual thoughts. Okay, so to find a balance between Krishna and Ram is the role of ego. Are you getting me? Hello. Okay, so that is the simplest explanation of the real ego and super ego. This ego begins to develop in infancy itself. Okay, from the early childhood we develop this check on reality. Okay, because we cannot follow id all the time. It is not possible, because they are insatiable desires, the desires which cannot be satisfied at all or most of the time. And super ego is also impossible. It is impossible to follow all the social standards. Okay, otherwise we will not fulfill our desires at all at any point of time. Okay, that's why ego is required to keep a check on reality, what is possible and what is not in a particular condition, with the facilities which we are having. Okay, so this is the concept, this is the structure of mind which uh, Freud propounded. Okay, then we are having the concept of defense mechanism. Now Freud believed that we have these three levels of mind. Okay, conscious, subconscious and unconscious. We are having these three type of uh, uh, three things which are there in the mind, that id, ego and super ego. Now these three things are always in conflict. The three levels of minds are always in conflict. Okay, આપણે ખાવાનું પણ હોય, we generally know that if we are looking at something which we like the most, our generation, especially the younger generation, if they are looking at pizza or something, okay, so the first thing which will be there in the mind, that they'll try to finish they want to finish the entire thing, the entire pizza they want to eat. Okay, but if we are sitting in a group with the friends, then we'll try to be as polite and humble as possible, that and we will pretend that we'll share the slices with other people. Okay, so this is the simplest thing, this is the simplest simplest conflict which we have. Now this kind of conflict we are having 24/7, 365 days a year. Okay, so our id, ego and superego, our conscious, subconscious and unconscious are in constant conflict. They are having this conflict all the time. Now what will happen if this conflict is always there in our mind? Okay, we'll develop a kind of defense mechanism. Okay, we'll find a kind of solution to deal with these conflicts. Okay, and these solutions are named as defense mechanism by Freud. Okay, there are six defense mechanisms which Freud has and the other psychoanalysts have enlisted. Okay, they're known as repression, denial, projection, displacement, regression and sublimation. Okay, now we don't have much time, so I'll try to explain them briefly. What is repression? That the ego pushes disturbing or threatening thoughts out of one's consciousness. रिप्रेस करना है, सप्रेस करना है, तो हमारे कॉन्शियसनेस में जो थॉट है उसको कॉन्शियसनेस में से निकाल दो. इट माइट गो टू द अदर लेवल्स ऑफ माइंड. ओके, दैट इज कॉल्ड repression. Okay, consciously उसके बारे में सोचो ही नहीं. So that is one solution to get rid of this conflict, this constant conflict. Second is denial. You might we all do this thing at one point, at one moment of the time or the other. That we will try to deny some harsh fact. We know that something is happening in our mind. We know that something is crushing us. Okay, but we are not ready to accept that thing. Will refuse to acknowledge its existence. We will try to believe that that thing is not happening. Okay, if someone is cheating us, okay, the person who is most dearest and nearest to us, then we will try to believe first that it is not happening, that person can't do this thing. So we are trying to deny this fact. Okay, our ego and super ego is having a conflict. Ego will say that it is possible that that person can cheat, but our super ego will tell us, but the other part will tell no, it is not possible because that person was so much trustworthy for us previously. Okay, so what will we do? We'll deny. That is also a kind of defense mechanism. Then projection. Now in projection, what will we do? The ego will attempt to solve discomfort. जो डिस्कम्फर्ट की सिचुएशन, एम्बेरसमेंट क्रिएट हुई है, उससे बाहर निकलने के लिए द ईगो विल बी एट्रीब्यूटिंग द इंडिविजुअल्स अनएक्सेप्टेबल थॉट्स, फीलिंग्स एंड मोटिव्स टू अनदर पर्सन. उसको दूसरों के ऊपर एट्रीब्यूट कर देंगे. ओके, दूसरों के ऊपर प्रोजेक्ट कर देंगे. ओके, तो दिस इज आल्सो वन वे टू डील विद दिस कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. द अदर इज डिस्प्लेसमेंट, द फोर्थ वन, that the individual satisfy an impulse by acting on a substitute object or person. मतलब किसी का गुस्सा किसी के ऊपर निकालना, जो सिंपल टर्म हम कहते हैं, that is displacement. We know that something is wrong, we know that we are feeling angry or we are having a particular emotion, but we can't express it directly to the person, to the targeted person. So we will bring it out to another person who is completely, who might be completely innocent, who has nothing to deal with that thing. But as we can't pass on our actual emotions to the targeted person, we'll displace it. Okay, we'll send it to another person who might be innocent. Okay, so that is displacement. Okay, जो बॉस का गुस्सा घर पे निकल जाता है, उस तरह से सिंपल वर्ड में. Then regression. Okay, regression as a defense mechanism, the individual moves backward in development in order to cope up with stress. Okay, regression मतलब पीछे चले जाते हैं. इधर एग्जांपल जैसे दिया है, an overwhelmed adult acting like a child. Okay, a person who is not ready to accept this thing might go backward, and he or she might start to act like a child. He or she might cry like a child. Okay, can throw some tantrums, गांडा ने जेम थोड़ा व्यवहार करे. Now he is or she is a complete adult, but as that person is not getting able to deal with the conflict of his ego and super ego, he will regret. Okay, he will show regression. Okay, so that is also kind of defense mechanism. The word defense itself says that we are trying to defend ourselves from that conflict. Okay, but that this defense might help us sometimes and might not help us the other times. Okay, but all the other defense mechanism which we have enlisted till this moment are one way or the other harmful. Okay, if you are trying to deny the very existence of the conflict, if you are trying to displace it to some other person, if you are regretting, if you are going backwards, this all the things are in a way a kind of halt. ये सिर्फ जो कन्फ्लिक्ट है उससे एक मुंह छुपाने के तरीके है, जो पहले के पांचों है वो कहीं ना कहीं कन्फ्लिक्ट हमारे सामने आगे आने वाला ही है, जो और बड़े रूप में आ सकता है और इट कैन हार्म अस. Okay, so these 5 ways are not that much practical or helpful, but the sixth one is, what is the sixth way of defense mechanism? That is sublimation. Okay, which is similar to displacement. उसमें भी हम किसी और चीज में हमारा जो इमोशन है वो पास ऑन करते हैं किसी और ऑब्जेक्ट की तरफ या किसी और चीज की तरफ. हाँ? अगर डिस्प्लेसमेंट करोगे तो आप कोई ऑब्जेक्ट को तोड़ दोगे. ओके, इफ यू आर टू एंग्री तो यू विल crack that object, you will destroy that object. if you will throw anger मतलब if you will throw tantrum to some person, okay, तो वो डिस्प्लेसमेंट है. लेकिन अगर वो प्रॉपर वे में आपको करना है तो क्या कर सकते हो, यू कैन चैनल योर एनर्जी. ओके, आपके जो कंफ्लिक्ट में से जो एनर्जी क्रिएट हुई है आपके माइंड के अंदर, यू कैन चैनल इट टू योर कंस्ट्रक्टिव हॉबी. ओके, कंस्ट्रक्टिव हॉबी में क्या क्या हो सकते हैं? इफ यू आर अ जिम फ्रिक, you can do exercise more and more. Okay, if you are an artist, you can, if you're a musician, then you will listen music or you will play some music. If you are a singer, you will try to sing it out. You if you are a dancer, you will dance it out. Okay, through dance you will try to express yourself, you will try to get relieved. Okay, so these all forms, if you are a poet, you will write the things. So these all are called sublimation, that we are getting relieved of our emotion, we are displacing them, but in a socially appropriate manner, in a manner which is ultimately helping us to improve ourselves. Okay, so this is the this is a better way of dealing with the conflict. Okay, so whenever we are having any kind of conflict, though we are not though we might not be an artist, okay, uh, we should try to channel that conflict in energy to one of our best hobbies. वो हॉबी में वो सारी एनर्जी डाल देनी चाहिए. If even if you are cooking, so you can channel your energy to cooking. Okay, because cooking is also a constructive hobby. Okay, that can help us to get relieved. Okay, so these are the ways of defense mechanism which Freud has mentioned.
Sorry to interrupt, Danish, but
Yes,
you have 5 minutes remaining. You have to, within 5 minutes, you have to wind up your discussion.
sure, ma'am, sure, ma'am. Now,
Yeah.
as I was already aware that there will be many topics which I might not be able to discuss. Okay, so but I have talked about the basic things. Okay, of psychoanalysis. There are, as you can see, the psychosexual stages of development of individual. Okay, then the interpretation of dreams. Then one more, this Oedipus complex. These are other well-known topics of psychoanalysis. Now, are you all familiar with this concepts, this Oedipus complex or interpretation of dreams? Okay, yes, Nitin sir. Okay, what about others? Because I still haven't touched upon the theories of Jung. Electra is also there, the female version of the Oedipus complex. Okay, Oedipus complex, in short, that if a child, if a male child is having a kind of sexual attraction towards mother, that is Oedipus complex. Okay, which Freud developed on the basis of the play of Sophocles, the Oedipus the king. Sophocles no play હતો એમાંથી આ develop કર્યું Oedipus complex, and its counterpart Electra complex. If a female child, if a girl is having the same desire, the same kind of desire for the father, okay, then it is Electra complex. Okay, then dreams are also, interpretation of dream is also one of the important theories, but I think we are out of time now. So I will be sharing this PPT with you definitely, and I have tried to find out some questions which might be asked. The questions in the sense, એવી ચીજો જે ગોખીને ગોખી દેવાય અને જે જનરલી નેટ અને સેટમાં પૂછવાનું જે પેપર સેટર્સને ગમતું હોય છે. તો એવા થોડાક જે ક્વેશ્ચન્સ છે તે પણ હું એ કરવાનો પ્રયત્ન કરું છું. તો if I will be ready with that thing, that I'll also share that thing with you people. Okay, will it be fine?
Yes, sir.
Because the Rex. Okay. Okay. So I think we don't have much time, so we'll not go into the other details. If at all, we will be having some other time, some other day for this topic again. We'll talk about that thing. I'll try to add Jung also in this PPT. Okay. So thank you all for listening me with this much patience. Okay. I hope I was understandable enough. Was I?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And now participants are requested to introduce yourself and you can ask to sir regarding your the topic. Participants.
Sure.
May I?
Yes, Nitin
Yes.
sir.
Yes. So, uh, in the last slide, you talked about the defense mechanism, and there were four ways you
Yes,
talked about
six.
that uh, through which we can defend ourselves. And the last one you talked that the other three, one is the better than the other three, and that is sublimation.
Yes.
So, uh, Longinus, many years ago, also
Hmm.
talked about sublimation. So,
Hmm.
can we call it that Longinus was also a psychoanalytic, was doing a psychoanalysis?
Would you like to compare, matlab, compare this theory of sublime of Longinus and the sublimation which Freud is talking about? What is your
Yes,
understanding of
yes,
these two things?
yes,
Which
yes,
which
yes. That was what I'm asking. That Freud talked about this many years after, but
yes,
Longinus talked about that. Is there any difference between the sublimation of Longinus and the sublimation Freud talking?
I think in a way there is, because when Longinus talked about the sublime, it was more about the aesthetics, the quality of greatness which should be there, okay, in the piece of literature or piece of art. I think that can be the simplest explanation about the sublimation the sublime theory of Longinus. Whereas here I think the more focus is on how our mind is operating. I can't recall exactly whether Longinus tried to talk about the conflicts of mind, the ongoings of mind, how the sublimation can help us to come out of that conflict. Did he? Nitin
Yes,
sir?
yes, yes. But why it came to my mind that he also talked that it pleases all such kind of definitions he gave about sublimation. So in the same manner, here also the unfulfilled desires are to be sublimized so that it pleases us. In that manner, I am talking.
Okay, in that manner it is applicable, that ultimately it is going to it will not only help us, it will not only please us and entertain us, but it will help the others, the our connoisseurs, our readers, okay, to have the same feeling. I'm no expert in the theories of Longinus, but I tried my best. Thank you, sir. Nitin sir. Yes, anyone else? Thank you, Avni, for such kind words. I actually try. I wish.
Participants, if you have any questions and anything, you can drop the questions in the chat box also, or unmute yourself if anyone has.
Yes, if anyone wants to ask anything. Actually, I wanted to make it more and more interesting, but the length of the topic was overwhelming. It stopped me from adding anything extra.
Okay, anyone? Participants? Okay. So it seems that the questions are not seen
Okay.
here or unmute by themselves. I would like to thank you for the session that you give us the information regarding the psychoanalysis criticism. I would like you to thank you from the Department of English and CLS and
Uh, I also would like to thank you again for inviting me, Purna ma'am, Pratiksha ma'am. Thank you that you considered me as a uh, resourceful person for this particular topic. And we are going to meet again. I hope that we'll try to interact more in the other sessions with the other topics.
sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Thank
And
you very much.
thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And the participants, there is a small announcement for you that from today we having the end of the first round of the Net and Slet series from Monday onwards. That is from 25th January. That we are going to begin with the second round of this series at the same time from Monday onwards without any break. And if other sessions has been already send it to you in the mail, or you can check on the alumni blog for the details and the schedules, so that you have the regarding these things. And one more thing, that the those who have attended the class regularly, for them there would be ppts and the notes by the experts would be shared in the google classroom by this weekend, so you can able to see that all these things that you need to for your work, other for the work for you will help you to understand more. And another thing that please if you get your mail, please see that so you didn't miss any lectures from Monday onwards. We are going to meet on Monday for the second round of this series. Thank you, everyone, and I thank you to all the for their questions and everything, and for the responses. Now we I call it for the day, and thank you once again, sir, for the session.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll meet again. Till then, goodbye.